Hey friends, so I'm gonna read for you a chapter from my recently released memoir, Before I Had the Words, and I just wanted to let you know there is a trigger warning. I'll be using a slur and as well as referencing genitalia, so just so you know that that's in here. It's quoted from someone else, they said it to me, so I just wanted you to know that comes in the anesthesia part if you need to skip that. Okay, alright, bye. Hydration. Oh my god, I just spilled water all over my book. Well, I guess this is my copy now. I was gonna say, hydration is happiness. As I water my novel, yes, okay. Alright. A primary care physician, an ultrasound technician, and a surgical assistant. For a while, I was not fond of doctors, other than my endocrinologist, Dr. Spack. This originated from a series of unfortunate events at various doctor's offices I had been to while in the process of transitioning. Because of these mishaps and misfortunes when I was younger, I still feel anxiety anytime I must introduce my body to a new doctor, fearing rejection. At the end of junior year of high school, I felt a stabbing pain in my abdomen. One evening, I whined about it to Mom to such an extent that she suggested I go to the doctor if it was that bad. I decided it was that bad and scheduled a time at my primary care doctor's office. It was going to be in 3 weeks. Fine. Walking home from school one afternoon, I keeled over in pain from the stabbing feeling. That time, it felt like someone twisting a knife right into my intestine. I started keeping a food journal, as Mom suggested. Maybe little clumps of seeds were getting caught somewhere. Maybe she had read that online. "Screw you, seed clump," I moaned out loud as Amy looked at me like I was crazy. "Couldn't it be like your ovary?" she asked. Even though I was identifying as a boy, I was still getting periods and expected them every month until I started testosterone. A boy with periods, but I had never gotten cramps before, and my periods sometimes missed a month or were only a few days long due to how much I exercised and played sports. I was quite lucky overall on that front. "Oh yeah, it isn't that spot," I pondered. "Maybe it's the feeling of the egg being released or something?" "Dude, you are so sensitive." "I am so sensitive, I know," I laughed, knowing she was playing. "I can feel my intestines contract when a poop is coming." "You're disgusting, and I don't know why anyone likes you," she joked. "People like me because I can predict when a poop is coming." I twiddled my thumbs as I waited for my primary care doctor to fetch me from the waiting room. Wearing my sewn-together social distortion shirt, my black undershirt over my black binder, and black skinny jeans, I did not quite fit the scene of an upper-middle-class doctor's office. When I finally got into the exam room, it hit me that I had not been there since the previous summer when I had a physical. That was before I had begun socially transitioning and binding my chest and going by Sky. Mom had work and couldn't come with me, and I did not particularly want to tell Dr. Christie about my gender transition plans. It didn't seem important, since I was still eons away from starting hormones. She wouldn't know the difference between me last time and me this time. I resigned to responding to Catherine and she/her pronouns to get it all over with quicker. After I explained what was going on, the doctor asked me to remove my shirt and bra so she could better examine my abdomen and upper body. I looked at her with eyes wide and mumbled, I don't wear a bra, I actually wear a chest binder, but it only goes right down to below my chest and the painful spot isn't covered." "What?" she asked. "I don't feel comfortable taking it off." I felt extremely uncomfortable either way at that point. "You are binding your chest? Why?" She had an accusatory tone. I identify as transgender, as a boy, and binding my chest is making me feel more comfortable for the time being. I eventually would like to have a mastectomy, but obviously I'm 16, so..." "Okay," she replied, cutting me off. "Just lay on the table." Her face looked disgusted, like I was some less-than-human creature totally grossing up her office. I wanted to cry. Not only was I in pain, my abdomen in a constant battle against some sharp object, but I was now feeling emotionally unsafe. In a doctor's office. In a place where I should feel safe. In a place where I should be able to be honest in order to receive the best care possible. "Well, there isn't anything wrong from what I can tell," she said dismissively. "But, I mean, it can't be normal?" "I'll order you an ultrasound and you can go schedule it on your way out." She left the room quickly. I pulled my shirt back over my head. I never wanted to see her again. Luckily for me, she never happened to be available whenever I went back to that office. Essentially, my primary care doctor began avoiding me. She never confronted me, and none of the office staff mentioned anything, but for the 6 or 7 other times I had to stop by there throughout high school and the beginning of college, she was always unavailable. Instead, I would see a nurse practitioner who seemed to have no issue with my gender identity. Prior to uttering the word transgender during that exam, I'd only ever seen Dr. Christie. She had never canceled my appointments. I assumed the one thing that changed, my gender presentation, was the catalyst. On my way out, I picked up the ultrasound instructions. It would be the next day, at 3 in the afternoon, at a nearby hospital in the radiology department. Mom was going to be at work, so she asked our neighbor Sandy to take me. Sandy was fluent with hospitals, having been an administrator at one locally. I felt comfortable as we drove down and she went over what an ultrasound was like. I figured people only get ultrasounds if they're pregnant, ha ha, which I'm not, ha ha, I stumbled over my words, trying to be casual. Oh, people get them all the time for other things, intestinal things, things like that. Even men will get them done, especially for organs and stuff. There's a lot more than ovaries in a uterus, that's for sure. I checked in at the desk in reception. The receptionist looked at me funny, like something was wrong. Sandy asked if there was a problem. The receptionist reattached her lower jaw to her upper jaw before faking a, no, an error in the system here. What error? She asked. Are you Catherine's guardian? The receptionist asked. For this appointment, yes, Sandy replied. And this is Catherine? Yes, what's wrong? Sandy demanded. Nothing. I'm just confirming our medical record information, the receptionist replied, getting antsy. She handed me a sheet with a sticker in the corner that stated, Catherine Kurgel, May 19th, 1991, F. Sure, the F may have been the cause of confusion. Whatever. I wanted all this over with. I entered the ultrasound room with a nurse, while Sandy stayed in the lobby. Technically, I was permitted to invite her in, but I didn't want more people involved than had to be. It didn't cross my mind that I'd need an advocate. There was a woman with caramel skin and big brown eyes navigating the ultrasound machine. She reminded me of a girl I went to high school with. When I looked to my side, the nurse had dropped off my record and split without me noticing. I turned back to the technician, not knowing what to say. This woman was smiling and showing her assistant something when I walked in, but when she turned to look at me, her face looked angry. Excuse me, can I help you? She asked in a nasty tone. They sent me here for the ultrasound? I begged in my mind for her to be accepting. She looked surprised. What for? I don't know. I have an appointment due to unexplained pain. She scoffed at me. I wish I was kidding. Where is the pain? My abdomen? I kept sounding unsure of myself because I had never been treated like this in a doctor's office. Plus, my record was right there. I'm sure it explained everything. Instead, she was quizzing me and asked me a few more questions about my intentions for being there. A few times, she referred to me as child and in the third person to the assistant she had, who seemed uncomfortable during these interactions as well. She told me I would need to lie on the table and roll up my shirt to expose my abdomen. The way she demonstrated made it very clear that I could still keep my binder on. I felt a small sense of relief knowing I'd at least have that comfort. While I was laying on the table, the technician, holding this ultrasound device with this jelly liquid over my stomach, looked up at me in a very concerned way. Are you sure you're a girl? She said. You look like a boy. What? Boys don't usually get this ultrasound, that's why I'm asking. You are sure you're a girl because you do not look like a girl. I was silent, mulling it all over as she asked me again. I'd made such huge progress that year, being recognized socially as a boy, coming out as transgender, and having my friends become my allies. Almost everyone in my life was using Sky and he/him pronouns for me, or they were at least working on it, and more than half had shifted in that direction. I identified as a boy. I was a boy. And I'd come so far in the 8 months since I'd finally found those words. She was in a position of power. I was lying exposed on a table in the dark, cold room with someone making me feel extremely uncomfortable. I looked at her and felt I had to respond with, yes, I am a girl. To which she repeated a third time, are you sure that you are a girl? I gave up. She continued to make comments questioning my gender identity and my body. When I got out of there, I didn't want to tell Sandy what had happened, but I'm a talker. and I had to. I couldn't keep it in. I felt wronged. Sandy was floored. Thankfully, we were already almost home. She told me that she would have run right back in there and gotten that technician written up for what she had said to me. I told her I would tell my mom and go from there. Mom was also floored. What happened was not fair to me. I didn't want to file any complaints or cause any trouble or talk to anyone official about it. I just never wanted to see that woman again. And I never did. Fast forward a year. I was 6 months on testosterone. I was happier, healthier, and more confident than I had ever been in high school. I had just graduated high school, in fact. Things were exciting, things were looking good. Before college was to start, Mom thought it would be a good idea for me to get my wisdom teeth out. Amy's parents had had the same thought. However, during the week that I had mine scheduled, Mom had an unexpected business trip come up. Knowing full well that I wouldn't be able to drive after anesthesia and that I would need some solid medication distribution care for the first few days, Mom solicited the help of Amy's mom. Amy was getting hers out on Monday, and I was getting mine out on Tuesday, so we could commiserate in pain together. We were stoked. We would get to basically have a week-long sleepover while my mom was out of town. Sure, we would be incapacitated and immobile, but it was still going to be awesome lying on our comfy couches, binge-watching Law & Order SVU. Amy's mom drove me to my appointment while Amy stayed home, still resting from her surgery. After 6 months on testosterone, I was very rarely misgendered, something I was thankful for. However, when I arrived at the oral surgeon's office, they plopped my wristband on me. Catherine Kurgel, May 19th, 1991, F. I figured no one would look at it. I was wrong. The surgeon came in to set me up and talk to me for a moment. He introduced me to the surgical assistant. I was surprised. She seemed young, maybe mid-20s, and had tattoos all over her arms. Birds of various colors, nothing too risque. When the surgeon left the room, she explained to me how anesthesia worked. "Have you ever been put under?" she inquired. "No, but I'm excited. It seems fun." "Yeah, I think so too. What's that there though?" she asked, pointing to my tiny bird tattoo on my finger. "It's a bird. Since I go by the name Skylar and my last name is Kay, I feel a connection with skylarks." "Oh, cool. And why does it say F on your bracelet?" Well, I'm a transgender man, but I was born female. I've been on hormones for 6 months and I'm feeling great." Unlike during my ultrasound, I had the confidence and ability to say those words and own my identity. I didn't like to come out unnecessarily to people, but now, when asked, I was able to provide more accurate information. Gaining that language was crucial. Unfortunately, I did not have the words to respond to what came next. "That's so cool! I've honestly never met a tranny before. I never would have thought anything other than you being a young, attractive boy. Like, who would have known, right?" I looked at her, patiently, not knowing what exactly to say or do. She began talking more about how she would not have known I was transgender. While some may read that as a compliment, she was realistically saying, "I can tell when someone's transgender because they look a certain way." That can't be true. My brother had expressed this sentiment many times, like he had a trans radar. It was very frustrating. Things moved toward the actual anesthesia process. I was hooked up to an IV and still surprised to be alone in the room with her. I figured the surgeon should be back in. "So, I'll have you count down from 20, she said, before quickly adding, "Oh, and do you have a penis or a vagina?" I wished I was hallucinating. Was I? I looked around the room. I could still see everything clearly. I could still think clearly. But fluid was coming down the IV. Time was running out. I tried to think. What should I say? What do I do? Right as I felt myself slipping out of consciousness, I muttered, "It's more complicated than that." And she seemed to take that as an answer, or I don't know what happened. I woke up and she was no longer there. I never had to see her again. But I left with this feeling of being violated. I was violated. I had been asked an extremely inappropriate and offensive question by someone who was administering anesthesia to me. Not even my best friends would have had the guts to ask that. That was my first ever surgery. That was my first ever experience with an anesthesiologist. I didn't want to burden Amy's mom with the information, so once I could talk, I told Amy. She was so angry on my behalf. We ranted and raved for a long time, before switching to conversations about our love for Mariska Hargitay and drifting off into a post-wisdom teeth extraction slumber. I was, and still am, so incredibly lucky to have a friend who cares about my safety and well-being like Amy has. Cool. Yeah, so there's a discount code down below if you want to order the book off my website. And yeah, they're gonna have to reprint more copies because we're like all sold out, so that's super exciting. And yeah, if you want me to read more chapters, let me know. Yeah, that was fun, I hope. Alright, love you all. I'll be back in soon. Thank you all so much for your support so far. I feel so blessed. So blessed. Alright, cheers.